Hi there, I'm Corey Driver, and this is Moving Forward. So this week we're in 2 Samuel 5 and Mark 6, and we're talking about exclusion and embrace. Thank you so much, Miroslav Volf, and if you haven't read this book, read it. So David experiences, for really the first time, national embrace. So there's been a 7-year-long civil war since Saul died, and some of the tribes of Israel have been fighting against Judah and some friendly partial tribes, and they've been going back and forth about who should be king, David or Saul's heir Ishbosheth. And Avner, you maybe don't care a ton about this, but was a commander for Saul's side, and Ishbosheth, and he goes over because of an insult to David's side and brings over all the people. The civil war ends, and David is anointed king and proclaimed king by all the people of Israel. God points out that David has been made king, not for David's own benefit, but for the sake of the people, to be good to the people. So after a civil war, there's this time of unification and embrace. All the Israelites go to David and say, yes, let's have you be king. So David has been king for 7.5 years over the tribe of Judah and becomes king over Israel, and takes his place in his city that he's just captured, the city of David. Okay? So this embrace, this national embrace of David, you're our king. We fought a long time, but now we recognize we have one king over Judah and the rest of the tribes, and it's you, David. Hooray, we love you. Hug. Contrast that with what Jesus experiences upon returning to his hometown in Nazareth, right? So he's teaching and doing miracles, and you have to know that. There's not as many miracles as there are other places, but Jesus is doing miracles and is doing teaching. And Jesus's people ask some questions. Where did he get these things or learn these things? What wisdom has been given to him? What are these miracles he's performing? Isn't he the carpenter or the builder? Isn't this Mary's son and the brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon? Don't we know his sisters? The townspeople are shocked. Jesus is doing this teaching, and they take offense at him. Jesus is surprised at their apistion. So a lot of times this is translated as unbelief, but I think that misses the mark because they see the miracles, right? They see that Jesus is doing stuff. Their questions reflect that they understand that he has wisdom. They're not sure where he got it from or how it came to him. They understand that he is able to do mighty acts. They're kind of confused as to how he got from the person they know to that, but it's not like they don't see his teaching and his miracles, right? And so the best translation here is, I don't think unbelief, but unfaithfulness, a lack of faithfulness. This is betrayal, if you will. Because this concept could be belief, but it could also be faith, as in faithfulness. And so think about like going back to your hometown and you being like, it's the ultimate high school revenge, right? For those of us who had a tough time in high school. You excel at a thing. You've gone away, you've learned a task, you've become incredible. God love you, great job. And you go back for, I don't know, a high school reunion. And people take offense. You're like, how did Corey get to be good at this thing? Like, he used to be afraid to talk to people, and now he like gets paid to talk to people. Yeah, we don't like that. Blah. We don't want to hear him talk to us, right? And so it's less of a thing. Like, they can believe that the Indiana Kentucky Synod pays me to do these things. It's not like they don't believe that, but they take offense. They're like, oh, I don't want to associate with you. I wish you were like the person who didn't talk and was afraid of strangers. I'm still that person. And so Jesus is been excluded from the town. He has not been embraced for the gifts that he brings. People see, oh, great teaching, oh, great miracles. We just don't like that you're the one doing them, okay? And so there's this, get away from us, right? And this exclusion carries forward to the work of Jesus' disciples. After Jesus sends them out, there are folks who say, essentially, no thanks, right? Like, cool teaching, cool miracles and everything. We see that you're doing some of those. We'd just rather not have you around. And so it's this pushback, right? It's exclusion. It's not disbelief exactly, but it is unfaithfulness, unwelcome, betrayal. We need to note also that as Jesus pushes back and feels this betrayal, which is betrayal, right? It's not just disbelief. It's not they don't believe him. It's that they're rejecting him. That Jesus says, look, it's the town, it's the relatives, it's the household. But we should say, because the townspeople brought them up, that Jesus' family does okay in this, right? So Mary, as we were forced to confess every winter, did know. And always knew and, accepted Jesus. And in fact, if you're reading the Gospel of John account, kind of pushed Jesus into public ministry. Jesus' brothers become stalwarts of the church. James is leading the Jerusalem church, according to Acts. And actually, it's James who's settling disagreements between Peter and Paul in Acts 15. And so Jesus' brother James becomes huge in the Jesus movement. We have books in the New Testament that bear the names of these people listed as Jesus' brothers. And so we should be careful to see that Jesus' family gets in on the act. Maybe not as soon as Jesus would have liked them to, but they get there. And Mary certainly was always there. So these towns then, as Jesus sends out his disciples, the Gospel of Mark includes Jesus' instruction that if they are not accepted, if they're not welcomed, if there's no sort of faithful reception of Jesus' disciples, then the disciples are to wipe off the dust of their feet as testimony against those places. Now, the other synoptic Gospels go on to say that it would be better for Sodom and Amorah, Sodom and Gomorrah, than it would be for those towns that have the dust wiped off against them. Why would that be? Here's why. Because the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah was a lack of hospitality. So Ezekiel 16, 49 through 50 says, now this was the sin of your sister Sodom, just in case you were wondering what the sin of Sodom was. She and her daughters were arrogant, overfed, and unconcerned. They did not help the poor and the needy. They were proud and did horrible things before me. Therefore I did away with them, as you have seen. Now the rabbis elaborate on this point. This is from the Babylonian Talmud. The people of Sodom said, since we live in a land from which bread comes and has dust that is gold, yani we're rich, we have everything we need. Why would we need foreigners? Since they come only to divest us of our resources. They're coming here to get rich off of us. Come, let's cause the right treatment of foreigners to be forgotten in our land. The point is that if cities, areas, lands, countries do not welcome but exclude, as Nazareth excluded Jesus, as some towns, no doubt, excluded the disciples, as Sodom and Amorah, Sodom and Gomorrah, excluded or sought to exclude or maltreat even angels who are coming to visit. It's a bad scene, right? And that exclusion Jesus has faced personally and is amazed at it, is shocked by it. Jesus, the Son of God, through whom everything was created, is surprised that people could see wisdom and see miracles and say, you know what, no thanks. That his disciples could go to multiple places, and Jesus says, oh, okay, so look, they rejected me, they might even reject you. So do your teaching, perform miracles to be sure, but you might be rejected. Take note. And the other Gospels, not Mark, but Matthew and Luke, say it's going to be better for Sodom and Gomorrah than it will be for those towns that reject Jesus, that offer exclusion, that reject Jesus' ministers, that say, no thanks. And so we need to be really careful. What I think the biblical passages are pointing at this week is to embrace what God is doing, as in the case of David, who was raised up for the sake of the people and became king over the whole nation. And we need to avoid the behavior of those in Nazareth who did not believe in Jesus, but just said, no, we reject what you're doing because we know who you are. We're not super pleased that you've come back with all this fancy knowledge and all these cool miracles. No thanks. And we need to avoid the behavior of those towns that Jesus sends his disciples to, and they say, oh yeah, cool teaching, nice, neat miracles and everything, but you're not from here, so no thanks. Please go away, right? The good news, as always, is that Jesus does come and offers wisdom and offers miracles and offers healing, right? That's right there in the text. And we can say no thanks if we want to, but let's not. And if people come even from areas that we don't especially like or want visitors from, it may be that God is sending them. So let's just welcome everybody. Who knows? People have entertained and welcomed angels in disguise. So this Sunday, this week, as we move forward, maybe the rest of our lives, let's offer embrace rather than exclusion, because that's what Jesus would like. Amen.